Good afternoon and welcome to the Computational Science Colloquium series. Today we have the pleasure to welcome Professor Yifan Zhang, is that? Zhang, which is assistant professor in computer science. And he's going to talk to you all about the security with your phone.
Hi everyone, this is Yifan, and I'm here to give you a talk about my this is my recent 2 years research about the security and privacy issues in mobile supply chain. So click that space bar right on your computer, just touch it. Okay. Okay, work. So before we dig into the details, we need to answer this question: what is the mobile supply chain? So it's easy to imagine that there will be a developer who writes some code, and somehow he upload his app to Google Play, and we as user we download it from Google Play. However, the fact is that the whole supply chain could be more complex and longer than we thought. So for example, the developer, they just write code for their app. They write code for the major logic in their apps. And when they do that, they often need to use software development kit, right? SDK or library to give them some functionality they need to use. And after that, combine this code from the developer, the code from library. They need to use the compiler to compile all of their code into a binary. In this case, if we are talking about Android, then the binary will be in the format of APK. And then they upload this APK to the Google Play or App Store for iPhone users. So in this chain, the thing is, lots of developers, there are millions of developers in this world, and all of them will use the same compiler for Android, of course, Android Studio. And then all of them will probably use the same set of libraries, SDKs. So these situations make the supply chain security and privacy a big thing, because if one line of code in this public tool went wrong, or if they are malicious, then not a single app or a single user will be affected. In fact, almost half of the world will be affected by the issue inside this supply chain. For example, we have Android Studio. Android Studio is basically the one compiler that we use for Android development. So basically, it compiles, signs, and bundles all of these apps. And if there's something wrong in Android Studio, then that means for every Android app, we are in trouble. As an Android user, we are in trouble, right? Another example is for the SDKs. SDK is a much larger scope compared with Android Studio. But however, very often SDK, they behave as part of the app. Therefore, SDK, they can read sensitive data, just like your app can. Locations, context, sensors, and usually, well, not usually, almost in every app, they are part of the binary. So let's start from the recent research about SDKs. So there are lots of kind of SDKs, and I take 3 SDKs that I believe are the most important. For example, advertisement. By the way, if you don't know, the ad mode, they are basically the Google ads, very popular. About during our research, we find out that about half of the Android app collected from Google Play adopted ad mode. So that's a ratio. For the payment, for example, if you're using Uber, if you're using DoorDash or whatever apps that require you a payment, very often that app must include some kind of payment SDKs, like Samsung, PayPal, RazorPay. By the way, RazorPay is like a India payment SDK that is widely used. And then for the analytics is basically when the developer want to know how their end user behave. When the developer want to know what is the thing that their user are most interested in, they must use a kind of analytics app to collect user data, to analyze user behavior. So these are just popular types of SDKs, but of course there are lots of other types. So let's start from mobile ads. Nowadays is very. It's not a surprise if you find an ad in any app, right? For example, here is a. I almost forgot what this ad is, but it seems like a DoorDash style app that you can see the ads behave. I mean, it looks just like the app content, though, because that kind of ads as native ads from ad mode provided by ad mode. So in this case, there's one thing you can mention that this tiny little window is drawn by Google. So although this window is shown in this, let's call it DoorDash app, okay? Although this window is shown in this DoorDash app, however, this piece of UI is created by Google. And another example is this kind of downscreen ads bar. This thing is also like this UI is created by the SDK. However, as the advertising, although the advertising company, they can display whatever ad they like to their end user. However, just provide a random ads will not always be beneficial, will not always make them profitable. So in order to gain highest profit, they must have the targeted advertising. That means the advertising company must create a profile for you, the end user. They must collect what you are interested in. Let's have an example. Say if we are located in California, then it makes no sense to deliver us some house advertisement in Mexico. I mean, maybe not Mexico, in Canada, for example, right? So that is the targeted advertising is highly related to user profile, and that user profile can contain lots of information. For example, gender, age, location, and search history, for example. The thing is,
I interrupt you one
of
second.
course,
I noticed that Amazon always said, "Oh, I discovered something you may like, something that you just ordered." That doesn't make any sense.
Amazon just
Amazon,
uh-huh.
okay, send me an email. And I said, "We found something that you like." And it's something I ordered like an hour ago.
Do you like their recommendation?
No, did you hear what I said? They sent me an email. We found something you like, you would like. And it's something that I ordered 1 hour ago. That doesn't make any sense. Okay, so
they made a pretty good prediction, but maybe send that email a little bit later than they should.
It doesn't make me to buy anything. So I only buy in particular, this is just me, what I want, not because of the advertisement. But I think that is not very efficient.
But they sent it to your email address, which means that your email address is in the database. When they did not get a bounce message, that means that they just validated your email for their surveillance program.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So just like we discussed, some of us prefer that these companies will not know that much about ourselves. Sometimes we prefer that. It's about privacy, right? So in response to all of those like behavior occurred in those advertising company, we have not we, but we as human beings, we created some of the privacy regulations and privacy laws to provide a restriction on these companies. For example, in Europe, we have GDPR, and in California, we have CCPA, and in the whole United States, we have COPPA. So the whole regulation are very long. It's like 20-page or 30-page long. But if we have to shrink them in one line, that will affect the advertising company's behavior. That will be for GDPR. They ask this company only collect data with user consent. If the user refuses the consent, or if the user does not provide a clear consent, then the company should not start collect the data. And then for the CCPA, the California law, they say they declare that the user must be given an opportunity to please.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, finish here.
To the company must give the user an opportunity to opt out of the sale of their private data. And for COPPA, the state law, they require that if you're going to collect data from children under 13 years old, then you must collect it with parental consent. What's our question?
Two things. So GDPR, it's an opt-in, right? So you have to opt in at the front and as a user, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And for COPPA, is it that like protects the privacy of children under 13 in the US? I was under the impression that COPPA kept any particular platform that collects data about its users from providing services to children under the age.
The regulation
with or without.
Well, the regulation is pretty strict, but the thing is, that the COPPA is not widely adopted in real world. Why? Because the thing is, how does the company know how old their user is? They must first collect user's age, right? Therefore, some company will just say, well, wait, I will just stop collecting user's age. Therefore, I can just collect the data without any concern about parental control. So that's the kind of reality of COPPA. But of course, there are some new progress is going on. For example, in Google Play, we have a section called Google Play Kids or Kids Google Play, something like that. In those sections, all of those apps are designed for like very little child. And when I say recently, I mean in the recent like 3 years, there are some lawsuits about some company upload apps into those sections, but still declare that we do not know how old their user is, which is getting fined. Yeah, that's a good thing. Yeah. Oh, and another thing is just like COPA is protecting children under 13, so I will not be protected by COPA. So similarly, CCPA is only protecting California residents, and GDPR will only protect European residents. So all of these have their like target people to protect. So in order to comply with these privacy regulations, almost all of the leading advertising companies, they start to provide the user of the SDK is a developer, right? So all of these leading SDK company, they are providing a set of privacy APIs to their developers, so that like if you read the name, it's like acknowledging privacy setting dot set has user consent, true or false. It's like giving the developer a way that to control the privacy behavior inside the advertising SDK. So, by the way, AppLovin is a super popular advertising company in Europe. Yeah, and similar thing happened for GDPR, CCPA, and COPA. So it seems like a good move. However, one question during that time is still unclear. That is, how effective are privacy APIs? Say, when an app developer calls this privacy API, what actually happens inside the SDK? So with this question, we started our investigation. So we gave this, by the way, we gave this kind of SDK a name. We call them privacy-configurable SDKs, for short, PICO SDKs. Yeah. So there are, of course, the mobile privacy issue has been studied for decades, and it seems this topic is well studied. However, according to our publication, we found that most of the prior work focus on the analysis of the whole app. So they think that every byte in an app is developed by its developer, which is of course not true. So by the end of their measurement or mitigation or evaluation section, very often they will mention that the developer declared that they have no idea about what's going on in their app. Developer disclosed that this privacy invading behavior is introduced by a third-party SDK written by Google, written by Meta, something like that. So they did not really fix the problem because they cannot point out which party in this ecosystem acts wrong. So from that point, we started our investigation. But the thing is, where should we begin? Should we begin from their advertising company's documentation, which often filled with super vague description about their privacy practices, or we should start from their implementation. So in the end, of course, we should analyze their binary, right? Instead of trust what they say, we prefer to analyze what they do. For the implementation analysis, there are still two ways to do the analysis. One is the analysis of SDKs, because all of these companies, they allow us to download their SDKs. However, the thing is, most of the SDKs, they have lots of versions. Like they will have a new version number every month. So we doubt that the latest version of their SDK will hint the real app market. So therefore, in the end, we decide to analyze the apps in the App Store that are using these SDKs. So we download, in this study, we download more than 160,000 apps, Android apps from Google Play. And then we analyze how many SDKs they use in a single app.
When you're doing that, are you decompiling these things to see the
I do
the actual source code and see what the SDKs are, or is it just like you get specific calls to traffic?
I would say I decompile it, but in fact I did not really decompile it. I do an analysis on the binary level.
Okay.
But I do not need to decompile it.
Yeah.
Okay. So the benefit of doing this is, of course, we can capture all of the components compared with looking the app as a whole. And then, of course, we will have a more comprehensive view of the problem. And we'll be able to monitor the privacy behaviors of all entities. So right here, we provide an example of an app called Call App. So Call App is a super popular app on Google Play that has over 100 million downloads worldwide. And by analyzing this app, we notice a thing that is very interesting, that this app, to maximize its financial returns, they integrated mutual advertising SDK in their single app. So for each individual end user, they will ask the ask price to each of these companies, and they will only provide the highest priced ad to their user. It's like a bidding system. And even more interesting, we found out in the end that one of their advertising company adopt similar strategy. And that company is called AppLovin. AppLovin, they do not generate ad content. They act more like a relay. They help the developer to filter, to bid among all of other advertising SDKs. And after the bidding, AppLovin will return the highest price ad for the developer. So in this app, the call graph looks like this. The AppLovin, Criteo, Audience Network, all of these three things are directly called by the app developer. However, in the meantime, AppLovin will launch 3 other advertising SDKs and do the similar bidding work. Yeah.
Okay, just real quick, I want to ask a question. So I see your 3. You have AppLovin, you have Criteo, Audience Network. AppLovin gets their 3 from the other SDKs. Does the traffic commensurate to adding in 3 other ones, or are they still on par with Criteo or Audience Network? So
the traffic will go to each of the advertising company.
What I'm stating is AppLovin sends it out to another SDK. So we have a PICO wrapper, right? We have an SDK managing another SDK. All I'm concerned with, do they see the benefit of it? So meaning like, are they offering a whole lot more ads, right? Or a whole lot more data, or a whole lot more, etc., more so than Criteo, based upon their method of operation, those 3 different? Or are they on par with Criteo even though they're subbing it out? It's like they're just sending it through. What I'm wondering is, do they reap the benefit for that?
The benefit will not be something like more ads, but the benefit will be more financial return to the developer. And meanwhile, AppLovin, they will take over about 50% of the bid. But in reality, sometimes AppLovin will still win the bid provided by app developer. because AppLovin, they have a better price because they're a company. So, please.
If you execute it now, and during use, it goes to AppLovin or the ad. And then it's irrelevant how many branches is on the tree and stuff like that. But at that point, is it the SDKs? Does the SDK have to provide opt-out capabilities to do all of this, or does the app have to perform the opt-out?
In fact, the app is responsible for that, because all of the SDK, they are just providing an API, so that the developer can call this API and tell the SDK that our current user prefer not to opt in.
How many splash screens usually occur? In other words, you execute the app, and then the first thing that should happen is that a splash screen is this thing that says you can opt out, or you can do these things and stuff like that. And remember, this is a mobile app. It's not the websites. You go to Deutsches Welt English edition. They always have to throw in a splash screen because of Germany. So, but well, the answer is: do you see a lot of splash screens that say that, or is it when you install the app that it uses a splash screen that says, here are our privacy things? In other words, if you do not agree to these terms and services, then you can't use the app. It won't install. Stuff like that.
That is a very good question, and actually that is part of my recent ongoing research. So to answer that question in one line, that is more than, almost all of the commercial app, they will give you a splash screen, ask you to agree with their privacy policy. Yeah. But in most cases, people do not read, because their privacy policy will be 20 page long, 30 page long. Nobody can read through it. That's one thing. Another thing is that although they will provide you a way to opt out, but they will not give it to you for free. You must explore, navigate yourself in the app settings, and in a maybe very, very little corner, you will see a very little line, ask you to check this box to opt yourself out. So they will not opt you out immediately. You must do that for yourself.
Everybody, all the young people, raise your hands if you read the terms of services. Oh, okay. Good. Okay. Well, and did you pay attention to the areas where they say your stuff can be used to train data?
I didn't understand the language as well as I would have liked, but I did see it. Yeah.
Okay.
And is there no regulation for the process of opting out being limited to 2 steps or 3 steps, something like that?
That's a good point. Well, but the thing is, sometimes it does not really require 3 or 4 steps to disencourage your user to opt out. Sometimes all you need is just a little corner in your setting, because I believe more than half of the app user will not even open their setting. So, instead of just a splash screen.
In some web pages, there's no mobile phone or anything like that. They actually immediately tell you that you check. Well, it's up to you, but they said, here are the options.
Yeah.
And if you check, there is one that you can restrict really fast. What is it that you will agree?
Yeah, but that's web pages,
Yeah.
whereas apps.
And those ones they don't, I think.
But for these advertising companies, data is their money. So they are very motivated in ask their user to give consent and do not opt out. So, this is like the big picture of the whole ecosystem. We have the blue box from app developer. We have some, I don't really see the color. In fact, it's gray. Some of the gray box, they are the privacy-configurable SDKs. And we have the yellow one. They act as a wrapper that wrap all of these PICO SDKs to the app developer. So we have 3 roles in the PICO SDK ecosystem. My question is, which part might contain privacy flaws? Well, the fact is that all of the party in this ecosystem will act bad. For example, this is the example from Call app. By the way, it's a super popular app, and it had over 100 million downloads worldwide. And we found out that this app, they provided a hard-coded CCPA setting to audience network. By the way, audience network is owned by Meta, the Facebook. They're the same company. What do I mean when I say hard code? That means they will not ask your preference to opt out from the data cell. They will just tell the audience network that my user prefers to opt in. So that would be a violation, right? And another violation is from the developer to the app login is a GDPR violation. And in that case, the developer just refused to make a function call to app login's GDPR API. And more dangerous thing is that app login itself is a PICO wrapper, and it will call 3 other as companies SDK. And they will, because the GDPR information is mixed, so GDPR configuration will not be delivered to these 3 as company as well. So of course there's a problem. And from the perspective of the PICO SDK, they have their problem as well. For example, we see that the AdMob, we've done this work on 2020, the beginning of 2025. During that time, AdMob, by the way, AdMob is Google Ads. AdMob, they will collect users' data although they received the refuse of consent from user. So basically every part in this ecosystem will break. So this is for like a systematic study we generate a bunch of privacy principle and privacy violation patterns so that we can design a framework to automatically capture these privacy invading patterns through the automatic analysis of a binary from Google Play. And we still have some time, so we'll introduce some of the patterns to give you an idea about what's going on. A very simple example is this is just what I mentioned earlier. So we notice that sometimes, even if the developer make a function call to the PICO SDK and tell the PICO SDK that, our end user refuse to give you consent, in that case, the SDK will still collect the ads ID and upload it to their cloud. By the way, what is advertising ID? Advertising ID is a is a is a string that will be used by every app in your cell phone. Although you can reset it, but even after your resetting, this string will still be used by every app in your cell phone. So that means, what does that mean? That means, say, if I am the Amazon app and I collect your ads ID and I ask Google. So I give this ad ID to Google and ask Google, what kind of search history does this person have in your data set? So Google will sell me their result. So I can use this result to generate shopping recommendation. So that's how it works. That's how as ID works. And meanwhile, so for example, if you're using a cell phone and that cell phone would like to use your camera, they will give your operating system, the mobile operating system will give you a pop-up, right? Ask you if you would like to give the permission to this app to use your camera. However, the collection of SID does not require that permission. Please.
Tape a piece of paper over your camera. Okay, next, the string. Is that in one of the, what are they? ISO standards, URLs, URL standards or URL related standards? That formatting standardized in.
They are more like a hash value, like a random string combined with number and letters to identify the person.
Is it essentially some kind of anonymization of like ID of the device? Or so?
I will not say the ID is an ID to the device, but because you can reset it, right? Since you can reset it, so it should not be considered as an ID to the device. But the thing is, the same string will be used to every app. So still, although, but I mean,
Okay, so if you reset it, essentially like every application on the phone will then use that new reset it
Yes.
ad ID.
Yes.
So it kind of is irrelevant to reset it, yeah.
yes,
That's the argument.
but I mean, but
Irrelevant, but
the
it's
argument,
useless.
the argument is that if you like to get rid of your history profile in this company, then you can reset and have a new profile. That's doable. But the thing is that even after reset, it's still the thing that those companies are using to track you, to create a user profile.
So like what you're saying is that that particular thing is going to be ubiquitous across all applications on your phone. This particular process.
And also, if you can refuse, I never give permission to use any camera or anything like that, and I still use the whatever.
They do not need your permission.
No, I know. That's why I always say no.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like we just can't talk about this particular piece, the software.
Well, there are lots of like argument discussion about if we should assign a specific permission to the ID, but it got rejected by Google every time because Google uses it a lot.
Yeah, I can't play with that.
Google developed Android, but Google still take advantage through these things. In the end, this is what we have right now.
You have to use search engines that do not keep your call history or your search history. That's all. Which throws out Google and a few others and stuff like that.
Yes, of course.
Facebook and
Of course, but the thing is nowadays, yeah, actually another
anything owned by Meta.
Another very interesting thing is about the AI. Everybody are using ChatGPT, Gemini, Cloud nowadays, right? Your talking history with those large language model are even more sensitive and they are even more. They can be used to create a more like accurate profile
It's
for
not
you.
obfuscated,
Yeah.
like it's more sensitive.
Yeah, and I mean, nowadays people are like afraid to discuss their own feelings to other person, but they are very like to discuss their own feelings with large language model, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, that could be a very serious issue in the future because you can install ChatGPT in your cell phone, and ChatGPT will get access to your SID. Although right now, before their IPO, they might prefer to save you, protect your privacy. Who knows in the future?
Duck AI, they don't keep your the data. Anyway, I just had to say that.
Here's the first example about a kind of course, it is a violation to users' privacy and to the privacy thing. And the other example is more like a implementation failure. So in this case, we found out that two of the advertising company they design the privacy system in this way that they have a single Boolean variable that is used to store user consent from both GDPR and CCPA. What does that mean? That means, say, if I am the developer and I make a function call to this SDK's GDPR API and tell it that my user refused to give consent, then the consent will be set to false, right? However, in the next line, the same developer make another function call to CCPA, telling that although my user refused to give you GDPR consent, but my user would like to give you CCPA consent, then this Boolean variable will be flipped to be true. Why? Why is this happening? That's because some companies believe that a single person can only be protected by either GDPR or CCPA. Why? Because it seems that GDPR only protects European resident and CCPA only used to protect California resident. And they believe that a person will not become European resident and California resident at the same time. But this implementation is wrong, of course, because first of all, you legally can become European resident and California resident at the same time. And secondly, GDPR, although GDPR is used to protect European resident, however, it is also a restriction to European companies. Say if you own a business in Europe, and you are doing part of your business in United States, then for your United States customer, you are still required to enforce GDPR privacy regulation. So that's why they must allow these two things together.
What happens if your ad servers are really in the United States?
Their requirement is that as long as your business has a single branch in Europe, then you must enforce GDPR to all of your customers.
Like if you have a sizable presence.
Yes.
Well, then why would companies try to move their servers to the United States?
Because AWS East is the largest server bank. I think that's the only reason. It's also one of the largest.
Oh, and for that, China has a similar regulation. So basically, what we are talking about today are all about United States and Europe. But for China, of course, China have a Chinese version of privacy regulation as well. And in Chinese privacy regulation, they require that no business is allowed to bring any Chinese citizens' personal data to anywhere else in this world. So basically that's why Apple is creating a Chinese, I'm not sure if they are two different companies, but to make it short, Apple created a iCloud storage in China so that they will use that storage to store Chinese citizens' cloud data.
Okay. Two other places, India and South Korea. How do they handle these things?
I did not do
Okay.
awful lot of
Just
research about South Korea. Yeah, because my research is more like focused on the real world impact, and the way I measure real world impact is like using the how many people are affected or how many dollars of business is affected. So yeah, so I don't know too much about South Korea. Okay, and here are another two examples for PICO wrappers. One is that a very interesting thing that is a conditional propagation. So just to remind you, PICO wrapper is the thing, is the app lobby that will make function call to lots of other SDKs and pick the highest reward adds to their developer. So we notice that so intuition, I mean, from our intuition, we assume that this wrapper will more like a relay all of the user privacy configurations to all of the SDK that it uses, right? But the thing is, we found out that some wrapper, they will add an additional condition to check if they should relay this privacy configuration to their user. A very funny thing is that we found out still two of the advertising company, they are using users' IP address as a condition. For example, if you are not in Europe, if your IP address is not in Europe, then you won't be protected by GDPR. When I say you won't be protected, I mean your GDPR consent will be set to true by default, and there's no way for you to change it. A very funny thing is that we found this case in a VPN app, which is used to change IP address to another place. So, yeah, so this is a very interesting example. And we believe that the wrapper, they shall not interpret user consent provided by developer, right? Because the developer are the person with more context and knowledge about current situation. And another example is that we call it uneven privacy support. So we found out that about half of the PICO wrapper, they support all of these three regulations. But the thing is, some of the PICO SDK they use might only support GDPR or might only support GDPR and COPA. That's an uneven privacy support. And in this case, the user's CCPA privacy configuration will just be lost because all of these launched PICO SDK, they just do not support CCPA. So from the perspective of a developer feels innocent because they made all they can do to protect users' privacy. The issue, I mean, who to blame in this case? We must blame the PICO wrapper, right? Because if they declare that they support CCPA, then they must not include any SDK that do not support CCPA. So that's another example. So after our systematic, I won't. That is not exclusive define of privacy, of course, but we try to kind of summarize 9 type of patterns, and then we try to measure these violations in the real world. So what we need is first a data set that can actually represent real world mobile apps. And then we must have a analysis framework that can detect these patterns at scale.
The typo right there. You mean
Where?
you're talking about Borneo or the world?
Oh, in the wild is like another version.
Yeah.
It's a word that we prefer to use in security community. You could, yeah, so our app data set. So at the beginning, although we collect more than 170 Google apps, but in the end, we only use about 48,000 apps because we applied two filters. One is that we want this app to be updated after January 1st, 2020, which is the date that CCPA Act become a law. And then we make sure that all of these apps, they are available in both of the United States and the European. Yeah, so, and after that, we collect some metadata from SDKs, like how many privacy API we provide. And this is like the system overview of our analysis framework. So basically, we have 9 patterns corresponding to the violation from app, from PICO SDK, from PICO wrappers, and we have these toolkits. They are provided by, I marked here, for example, the call graph analysis. This functionality is provided by Suit. If you don't know, Suit is a super popular Java binary analysis library. We use it to do the analysis. And there is also another framework called FlowJoy. I use it to do the paint analysis. This is for the static analysis part. But for some of the patterns, we noticed that the static analysis won't work well enough. So we also have another toolbox about the dynamic analysis technique, including the use of Frida, of the monkey to help this.
Oh no, sorry.
Need to wrap up.
I was just.
Fine.
Oh, I see. I mean, it's basically the end of the presentation.
Okay.
Yeah, and we have this evaluation with the precision and recall about 87%. I mean, they're just data that tell you this framework work.
Right.
Yeah. And we have some real world impact that we collected 22 PICO wrappers, and 16 out of them are having violations. And we found out that from the perspective of app developer, about 8,000 apps are using this SDK incorrectly. That means they might give a hard code privacy setting, or they might just ignore the privacy functional. And nearly half of the apps are affected by PICO SDK's privacy violations. And I mean, I would say most of these results is contributed by Google Ads, because more than half of the app are using Google Ads. So that'll be all for today. Thank you.
Please.
I didn't see, I saw Android in there, but I didn't see Apple.
Yes, so that is the thing. In this research, we prefer to move fast enough. So we choose to do the Android analysis. Why? Because in Android analysis, we have lots of existing tools like Suite, like FlowJoint. Why? Because Android is open sourced. The system is open sourced. So developing this framework are easy. So lots of people already done this work. But for iPhone binary analysis, that is super hard. That will consume lots of time and human labor to design this analysis framework from the ground. So that's why we didn't mention iPhone in this study.
Wow. Can you find Xcode programmers?
It costs money.
I'm using the example.
Do you have any other questions?
Just out of curiosity, so I know the privacies are a concern. Are there any legislation or anything that holds people accountable coming down the pipeline? So I don't think we have anything currently, like let's say here in the United States, nobody's getting in trouble, nobody's losing money under this for violating privacy concerns. What I'm wondering is, I don't know, and I haven't done the research coming down the pipeline, considering this is a problem and it's has a wide breadth. Has your research indicated anything that you see is coming our way in regards to addressing that concern?
So we mentioned that 16 out of 22 PICO wrappers are violating privacy regulations, and we send email to them. Most of them just ghost our email. One of them tell us that in their latest version, they update that, so they fix the problem. So.
But there's no accountability that you know. Nobody really is getting held.
No, we plan to provide the report to the CCPA committee, but we haven't done that yet because we we just have not done that yet.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Next question. Can you rank the 78 KD apps by downloads on Google Play? In other words, there's 50 apps that have 100 million downloads, 7,000 apps that have like 10,000 downloads, things like that.
We do this work by randomly select the apps. So we did not, in short, we did not do that analysis. However, if we look into the core app, this is like one of the leading app.
Oh yes, but I mean,
from my personal understanding, that is all of the leading apps, they prefer to risk, and all of those not so leading apps, they prefer to obey. They prefer to follow the privacy regulation. And from those,
the app that you're talking about that is popular is App Entry Point. You got 3 apps here: AppLovin, Criteo, and
those 3 are SDK, are libraries. They are advertising libraries used by core app.